In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, Massachusetts, where maple trees whispered secrets to the wind, lived Eleanor Hayes, a 78-year-old widow whose days blurred into a tapestry of faded memories and unspoken regrets. Her small Victorian house, once alive with laughter, now echoed with silence. The porch swing creaked lazily in the autumn breeze, a relic from happier times, when her husband, Thomas, would push it gently while their two children played in the yard. Eleanor had been a schoolteacher for 40 years, shaping young minds with stories of history and adventure. But retirement had stolen her purpose, leaving her with arthritic hands that trembled as she knitted scarves no one wanted. Her son, David, lived across the country in California with his wife and their two teenage daughters, visiting only for obligatory holidays. Her daughter, Sarah, was closer, in Boston, but buried in her high-powered law career, she called sporadically, her voice clipped with excuses. Thomas had passed 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack, leaving a void that no amount of church bake sales or bridge games could fill. One crisp October morning, as golden leaves carpeted the lawn, Eleanor sat at her kitchen table, sipping weak tea from a chipped mug Thomas had brought her from their honeymoon in Paris. A letter lay unopened beside her, a birthday card from Sarah, no doubt with a generic Hallmark message and a check she didn't need. Her eyes, still sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses, drifted to the mantel where framed photos gathered dust, David as a gap-toothed boy fishing with his father, Sarah in her prom vest, radiant and rebellious, the family on a beach vacation, sandcastles crumbling like dreams. "Why bother?" she murmured to the empty room. Loneliness was her constant companion now, a heavy blanket that smothered joy. She missed the chaos of family dinners, the way Thomas's rough hands would massage her shoulders after a long day, the pride in her children's eyes at graduations. But time had eroded those bonds. David texted emojis instead of calling. Sarah sent gifts but no presents. Eleanor felt invisible, a ghost in her own life. That afternoon, while sorting through Thomas's old toolbox in the attic, procrastinating on the estate sale she'd promised herself, Eleanor unearthed a dusty shoebox. Inside were yellowed letters tied with faded ribbon, love notes from Thomas during their courtship in the 1960s. "My dearest Ellie, even the stars pale next to your smile. Wait for me after the war." Thomas had served in Vietnam, and their love had blossomed in stolen moments before he shipped out. She read them hungrily, tears blurring the ink. Tucked at the bottom was a small, tarnished locket with a photo of their wedding day. Her in a simple white gown, him in uniform, both so young and full of promise. A surge of emotion gripped her. She hadn't cried like this since the funeral. Clutching the locket, she descended the stairs, her cane tapping rhythmically. On impulse, she dialed Sarah's number. It rang 6 times before voicemail kicked in. "Sarah, darling, it's Mom. I found your father's letters today. We need to talk. Please call back." No response that evening. Dinner was a solitary bowl of soup, the TV droning news of distant wars. Sleep evaded her, haunted by dreams of Thomas's laughter echoing through empty halls. The next day brought rain, mirroring her mood. Eleanor ventured to the local library, a habit from her teaching days. There, amid the scent of old books, she met Leela, a sprightly volunteer in her 60s, with a warm smile and a knack for storytelling. Over coffee in the library cafe, Eleanor shared snippets of the letters. Leela listened intently, her eyes widening. "That's beautiful, Eleanor. You should share these with your family. Write them into a story, a legacy." Inspired, Eleanor began journaling that night. Words flowed like a dam breaking. Tales of meeting Thomas at a diner, their first dance under lantern light, the terror of his deployment, the joy of David's birth during a blizzard, Sarah's defiant toddler tantrums that melted into hugs. She wove in the pains, too, The miscarriages they'd never spoken of, the arguments over money, Thomas's quiet battle with depression after the war. It was raw, emotional, a lifeline to her past. Days turned to weeks. She mailed excerpts to David and Sarah, handwritten pages scented with her lavender perfume. David's response came first, a video call. His face, lined with stress from his tech job, softened as he read aloud. "Mom, I had no idea Dad felt that way about the war. Why didn't you tell us?" His daughters, Mia and Lily, crowded the screen, eyes wide. "Grandma, you're like a romance novel hero," Mia giggled. For the first time in years, Eleanor laughed, truly laughed, her heart swelling. Sarah arrived unannounced the following weekend, rain-soaked and apologetic, a bottle of wine in hand, the one Thomas loved. "I was scared, Mom," she confessed over dinner, the letters spread on the cable like a map to buried treasure. "After Dad died, I threw myself into work to avoid the grief, but these, they make me see you not just as Mom, but as a woman who loved fiercely." They cried together, arms entwined, mending fractures with shared stories. Sarah revealed her own struggles, a recent divorce, the fear of failing as a mother to her young son, whom she'd brought along. Little Tommy toddled over, climbing into Eleanor's lap, his tiny hands clutching the locket. "Grandma's treasure," he babbled. David flew in for Thanksgiving, the house alive once more with turkey roasting and children's shrieks. The family gathered around the fireplace, Eleanor reading from her journal. Thomas's spirit seemed to dance in the flames, his humor in the anecdotes, his strength in the survivals. Mia and Lily begged for more, sketching illustrations of the stories. Even neighbors dropped in, drawn by the warmth spilling from the windows. But the deepest healing came one snowy December evening. David suggested scattering some of Thomas's ashes at their old fishing spot by the lake, a ritual long postponed. Bundled in coats, the family trudged through crunching snow, Eleanor's canes sinking into drifts. At the water's edge, where Thomas had taught David to cast a line, they poured the ashes into the wind. Eleanor whispered, "I love you, Tom. We all do." Sarah held her hand, David her shoulder, the grandchildren scattering petals like confetti. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Eleanor felt a profound peace. The loneliness hadn't vanished, but it was shared now, transformed into connection. Her family had rediscovered her, not just as the old woman fading away, but as the heart of their story, resilient and radiant. Back home, with the house full of chatter and the scent of pine from a fresh tree, Eleanor strung the locket around her neck. It was more than jewelry. It was a bridge across time. In the years that followed, she self-published her memoir, Threads of Forever, which became a quiet local sensation, inspiring book clubs and even a community writing group for seniors. David visited monthly, Sarah weekly, weaving new threads into the tapestry. Eleanor's life, once dimmed by solitude, bloomed anew. She learned that love doesn't end with loss. It echoes eternally, waiting for those brave enough to listen. At 80, she danced again on the porch swing, grandchildren twirling around her, the wind carrying whispers of Thomas's voice. "My dearest Ellie, your smile still outshines the stars."